Hey everyone, thank you very much for hitting that play button. This is another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Really quickly, before I get to today's episode, I just want to mention that we did not make it to the Hateful Eight round of the Potter Madness podcast competition. We actually got smoked by Six Sided Diaries, who we were going against. So we made it to the Sweet 16, but not to the Hateful Eight. I want to say thank you to everyone who voted. Unfortunately, not enough of you voted for me, and we got crushed pretty easily. So congratulations to Six Sided Diaries. You can check them out at Six Sided Diaries on Twitter. They have a really cool podcast. Basically, their definition of their show is a group of friends playing Nerd Barbies, a new homebrew Pathfinder actual play podcast every Sunday. So it's a lot of role-playing stuff. So if you're into that, please check them out. Congrats again for their victory in the Potter Madness competition. But on this week's episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast, we're going to keep on going. No stopping us, right? On this week's episode, I have a friend of mine on, and we've been friends for years, and it's taken so long to get him on, similar to how long it took on Chris Pierdomenico, who was a couple episodes ago. This guy is an agent for some of the biggest talent agencies on the East Coast. He's worked with all of them. He just returned from a one-year trek out to L.A., where he worked with more of the top agencies out there. This guy has been through it all. Awesome guy, a lot of knowledge. He's now returned to Philly. He's starting his own agency here called the Vi Model and Talent Agency. We're going to talk all about that and so much more. Also about finding representation, which is a huge question I get asked a lot about, is finding representation. So I imagine this episode and the one with Whitney Davis is going to be pretty popular, as Whitney's episode is very popular. So without further ado, this is episode 153 with guest Will Ball.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
This is from Seasons. Yeah, Free Seasons Pizza. Who would have thunk it, right? So, it's funny because I was going to order Chinese or pizza, and I was like, you know what, let me try to order some cheesesteaks. Let me just see how.
All right. I'm messing with cheesesteak. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, but because again, we're in Philadelphia, and if you don't actually have a good cheesesteak, you get beaten savagely out in the parking lot.
As you should.
Yeah, seriously. But it's funny having you on the show, Will, because again, I had Crispy on 2 episodes ago.
Sure.
This is episode 152.
Yeah.
And
can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
Did someone did I hear it correctly? Because I was listening to the Crispy podcast. That one of your guests murdered somebody or.
It was Dan Mervish, and the guy he was taught filmmaking by at USC, he murdered his family.
Okay. So
yeah.
it wasn't an actual, because it was at the beginning, and I was kind of doing something at the same time, so I wasn't like. I was like 80% listening. Yeah. And I just heard, I was like, wait, what if both his guests kill somebody? Like, damn.
It's Confessions of a Serial Killer on the table.
Deliver his manifesto via your podcast. The police get involved.
The police are just out here beating the crap out of me because of that. But no, his teacher, basically what happened was, the concise story of this was, his name was Crazy Aziz. And they called him that because he was kind of like always outlandish and just,
Yeah.
What happened was, one day, they called him in the office, and they said, there's a camera missing, and we didn't know who took it. And he said, I don't know. He got fired from USC.
Okay.
His wife then announced that she was leaving him, and it kind of snapped, and he killed them both, and then drove away and shot himself in the head.
Oh, damn.
But they didn't know he was dead yet, because he just vanished.
Okay.
So they had USC on lockdown. They basically they had to they were like, everyone was scared to death because they were like, is he gonna come? Because he apparently had vendettas against certain people.
Okay.
So they were like, oh shit.
Huh.
So, but yeah, no serial killers left yet that I know of.
Yeah. Well, I see. Let's see what happens after this.
Yeah. Seriously, Crispy. Who knows? He could be crazy. Because it's not the guys like me. Because it's always the guys who are like, he's so nice and sweet. And he was just
you're on the news and you're like, I would have never thought it was him. I would have never thought you're that guy.
Yeah, and just be like,
I'm so surprised.
Crispy just out of nowhere.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah, I was saying we said no problem. It's good to talk about that, and that's episode 149. Damn average, right before Crispy.
Cool.
And so what happened was, we've actually known each other since what, middle school?
I'd say so. Yeah, about that.
Oh, okay. Because I don't remember how I met Crispy. Do you remember how we met? Because Crispy thinks that we met at lunch one day, and I said, Crispy, that's such a weird way to meet somebody at lunch. Like what?
Especially in middle school.
Yeah, like how do you do that?
Yeah, no, I'm. That's confusing. I don't actually. To be honest with you, I don't remember. I know you were a grade above me, so there's always that kind of like distance that people have. I mean, it's like. Yeah, you're in the same school, but you're just like years apart because even though it's just one. But yeah, no, I really don't remember. I think it just kind of came to be. And then I think in college we had reconnected because you had reached out to me about a film or something like that, and then we just kind of got more involved from there.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember that because I also remember. Yeah, I was trying to think of this stuff too because I'm like, damn. It's been so. I mean, what did we graduate to high school about 50 years ago?
About that.
We're about 70 years old now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it, and now I'm just like, how did I know these guys?
Yeah.
But you never know that. Like, certain friends I know exactly where I met them at.
Sure.
But other people, I'm just like,
actually, I do remember where I met Crispy though.
Where'd you meet Crispy? Talk about it.
It was actually at a party, like a mutual friend's party. And I think we were just playing. We were playing some DOS game on the computer. And
DOS.
Yeah. I don't. There was no really. I mean, that's it. It really wasn't that.
Oh man, story, I thought you were gonna say you pranked them or something.
No, it really wasn't that exciting. But yeah, because then after that, I was like, hey, Will, you want to be my films? And then, which obviously I was happy to do, and still am. But yeah, like that's. About it. Sorry.
No,
went
nowhere. It went nowhere. Well, that's a sign of what's going to happen with the podcast.
Yep, you got it.
Those stories.
You got another 15 minutes of stories which go nowhere.
Now everyone's going to stop right now and just be like, "Oh, well, this is the end of this podcast." Oh man, it's it's just crazy though, because so when you were making all those films with Crispy, why did he select you because of your look, or because you guys were friends, because you knew something about filmmaking? Or?
I think we were friends.
Okay,
yeah, I mean that was first and foremost, and then I think he was trying to make a more spiritual film, and at the time I was more into that. Obviously I'm not into that now, but at the time, but yeah, and I And I'm just happy to do it. I mean, this is I really want to be involved in film at any capacity, and I wanted to explore more acting. So the fact that there was someone in my backyard who was shooting a film was was awesome. Like I was super happy to do it, and yeah, and got to pretend make out with people. So like, all right, even better.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So because I know Crispy was like put a lot of friends in that because he asked me to be in one.
Okay.
And I think it was one of them, and he kept like canceling on me at the last minute.
Oh jeez.
And I kept it was like 4 times. And I said, Chris, you're a nice enough guy, but I said I can't just put any more time into this. So I just kind of that's where Crispy and I stopped talking for like a year. Okay. Not because we were mad at each other, but just because we were just off doing exactly, just doing different things, And then we reconnected, and I ran into him one day at the gym, and
at the gym?
Yeah, at the gym.
Really?
Yeah, we were in the shower room together. No. At the gym, I actually used to be in shape, and I'm dead serious about that. I actually used to be in shape, and then Crispy, I think, was getting back into shape at that time.
Okay.
This is when we were in our 60s.
Yeah,
it
makes sense.
So now I'm in my 70s.
I'm not surprised that like you're at the gym. I'm just surprised. I've never imagined Crispy at the gym. Not Crispy. No offense. Yeah. I'm just saying. I just wouldn't picture him as a gym rat.
Do you know who Crispy's old gym buddy was?
No.
Kevin Coleman.
Oh, gee.
Coleman, and I mean.
I actually just saw Coleman the other day, and I know this is not interesting to any.
Everyone's like, "Who's Coleman?"
I'm like, he's actually living with my old roommate right now.
Samar?
No, with Matt Kincannon, with Matty Moosh, who I live in the media.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, he's in media with them, and Matt is just he's dying. The stories he tells about Coleman, like he cracks himself up, and he cracks everyone else up. Like it's great. It's Coleman. Like there's like 2 Coleman. There's like sober Coleman and drunk Coleman, and it's very 2 different people, and
yes.
very very nice people. I have nothing bad to say about Coleman. He's a great guy. Just very very funny.
Did I ever tell you about the time I had to almost choke Coleman out in the middle of a bar on Christmas Eve?
What?
True story. Hey, Coleman, we were...
Wait, which bar?
Dexter's. It used to be up here on the 5 in lovely Aston, Pennsylvania. So what happened was Coleman was drunk one Christmas Eve in a bar, and he won Christmas Eve. It was a snowy... No, it was actually Christmas Eve, and he actually started picking a fight with a friend of mine because he thought my friend kept egging him on. my friend didn't even say anything.
Okay.
And Coleman just went ballistic. So I just went in between him. I was like, Coleman, just calm down. And he just went ballistic. And I was like, and he started trying to grab me. And I'm like, holy shit, I pushed him. I mean, I'm a lot bigger than Coleman is. So I just like chucked it with Coleman against the wall. And I hit another person on the way back. So the three of us in the wall. And then I just kind of like put my elbow or my forearm into his neck, and I got my hand on the back of his head, and I was kind of like doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, Coleman, calm the fuck down. And he just was getting angry and angry. I'm like, now I have to put more and more pressure on him. So finally, he starts like he can't breathe. So he's starting to go down, and we get him out the door. I didn't like choke him out or anything, but I said like.
Just gotta forcefully hey, we need to get out of here. Like,
I was like, calm. I'm not going to let him go if he's not going to be calm. Who the hell,
that's fair.
And we got him outside, and he's just like, oh, I'm sucking this crap. I'm like, Jesus, how much has this kid had to drink? Sweet Lord God. And I mean, oh my God. But finally, he ended up giving the credit card to somebody else. They came in and paid for all his stuff. The owner of the bar wanted to call the cops, and I'm like, well, he knew me. So he goes, so what happened? Is somebody out here fighting? Well, I said, yeah. I said, he was just Coleman, that kid. He goes, all right, well, I said, he's out of here. I said, we're sorry about everything. So he goes, all right, well, I won't do any call the cops or anything. So,
can I, speaking of bar fights, can I tell a crazy LA story?
Go for it, man.
One of many. So when I was in LA, it was like the week I had moved to LA. A friend of mine was like, hey, well, let's go to this Armenian bar in North Hollywood. So I'm like, all right, yeah, why not? Let's go. Actually, I'm pretty sure it started off as like the bar elsewhere, and then it was like, hey, this is Armenian bar down the street. Let's stumble in, what have you. So we're there, and there's this short Armenian dude and this really tall Armenian chick, and they're talking to each other, and they just ran into each other. And they're kind of ribbing each other, like joking around, and they're starting to like, "Hey, like you're so tall, you're so short, you're making cracking jokes." It was
a comedy act.
It kind of was, yeah. I was like, and I'm just sitting here drinking, just looking at what's going on, and you can see it like it's starting to just like get meaner, like it crossed the line from like being just friendly and joking to just like it's starting to get like really kind of insulting, and they start to like get really like mean jabs at each other,
like Crispy and Matt Kelly.
Exactly, yeah.
Some was a joke and then some.
Yeah, like hurt feeling. So clearly, so then the smaller Armenian guy, he says something that like crosses a line, and she hawks a loogie and spits on him, and we're like, "Oh damn!" And
did you have to spit down?
Yeah, I had to spit down, right? Walks away, right? And like, "Oh shit!" Like, look what happened, right? So like everyone's drinking, and it's coming around like 2:00 in the morning, so the bar's about to close. Well, he just got this look on his face. He goes back up to that Armenian chick and spits in her face, and we're like, "Oh shit!" And then so all of a sudden, like there's like Armenian like bar fight starts breaking out, and the bouncer's just like, "What the fuck?" And my friend, she was very much like, "Oh, you dare don't spit in like a woman's face," and the bouncer was like about to like beat the shit out of this guy, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, listen, I want to tell you something. Like, I don't believe that you should spit in anyone's face, male or female, but like she spit in his face first, and I'm not saying like what he should have spit back, but I'm just saying it wasn't just like out of the blue, like he just hocked a loogie in some chick's face, like, and he was like, okay, cool, I'll just I'll just kick him out of the bar, and that'll be it. I won't beat anyone's ass. So I'm like, oh damn, and I was like, no, welcome to LA.
Jesus, man, Will Ball stopping bar fights.
Oh no, I didn't stop it. I was watching. There were my popcorn.
So I want to talk about you going to LA, but
sure.
But I just want to go back a few steps.
Sorry,
no, it's a problem, because I want to actually ask, right out of high school, you went to college. Yeah. How did you end up, getting into this whole agency field, man? Because it seems like harder to me to get into that because it's very niche.
It
you
is.
know what I mean? So I wanted to ask you, how did you find yourself actually as an agent for all these, actresses and models and stuff like that?
So, when I was in college, I went to school for film, and in my first few years of film, or years of college, I just knew that I didn't really want to be there, or I wasn't quite sure why I was there. And I had heard someone else talk about having similar feelings, and they suggested take a semester off. Just do what you want to do. Like, if you want to do something else, and at the time I really wanted to be an actor, and I really wanted to explore the acting industry, just take it off. And still to this day, I will give the same advice to anyone who's like in college and not liking it or just not feeling it. Just walk away and come back. Like I was able to, I took a semester off. I pursued acting. I got like in a commercial. I got like some small print ads, things like that. And it was great. I like learned a lot in that 6 months. And then afterwards, I thought, okay, it's time for me to go back to school. I was ready to go back to school, but I went instead for broadcasting and communications, and it's a little more viable. I mean, the thing about film school is you really don't have to go to film school in order to make film. Like, honestly, and I would recommend instead of take that tuition money and invest in just equipment and books and your own film and like save yourself. And then you won't have loans that way.
Seriously, man.
It doesn't make sense to go to film school for film. And I kind of saw that. I was in the class, like, wait, I'm in a class with just like 30 people, and this is just one class. Like, we're not all going to be successful. Like, and there's only so few jobs here. Like, the best I can hope is to be a PA. So, like, I got to find a way to be realistic. And I'm not saying don't pursue your dreams, but, like, you got to be realistic to a degree. So, so then I went back to college. I had an internship, and I took an internship at an agency here in Philadelphia. And it was called Expressions, and the wonderful Greer Lang. She's an agent. She's older now, but she's been an agent in Philly for decades, and learned everything. I learned a lot from her, and she's really good. And she genuinely, she's one of those people that just loves being an agent, and just it is what she does. Like, she's this older woman. She gets on the train every day and rides the subway to work. Like, she's so dedicated and loves what she does. So really kind of fell in love there, and again, I don't know, just got really like being behind the camera as much as I did in front of the camera, because it's very much like the best part of my job is sharing in my talent's success. I love calling up talent and being like, hey, listen, like, you just booked this job, and they're just ecstatic and they're just beyond happy, and it's just, for me, I don't know, I really like that feeling, and I really it's what drives me to do this job. It's the best part of my job for sure. And so then after that, then I got picked up by another agency who was opening up in Philadelphia, and worked there for 5 years. Got to know really the client base here in Philly even more. And then after that, that's when I went out to LA.
And so just sort of to go take a couple steps back.
Sure.
I always have to talk about college. I always talk about, film school and this and that.
Definitely.
That's something, too, that I just, as I keep talking to more and more people from this podcast, that's one thing, is not everyone's going to succeed.
No.
Whether it be screenwriting or directing or whatever. The other thing is, do you really need to go to make a film? Yeah. I say no. I mean, I'm a big advocate. People always ask me about film and going to college or whatever. I'm actually the guy that talks you out of going into the film industry, and I'm also the guy that tells you to quit college and never go there to begin with. Well, so because to me, colleges, the more I experience people with degrees, I talk to them and. More experience talking to people who have these degrees, and they have a degree in like business, like me, or something like chemical engineering, and it's like we don't even do anything in that field, and it was like, what was the point of that? I think that if we did more of like a mentorship here,
sure,
where it's like you gotta, even if you're in high school and you take a gap year, go work in the film industry, because you can find 10 kajillion independent films going on every day in this country, and or even all over the world. Find out if this is what you want to do.
Yeah,
a lot of actresses. I mean, and I want to ask you this question. Sure. In my opinion, a lot of actresses, and I hate to pick on the females, but a lot of actresses don't actually like acting. I think they like they like the idea of being famous. And this just speaking strictly in my experience in the New York, Philly areas.
So I mean, I do think that's I think both genders definitely feel that way, and there's a lot of people. And I'll take a step back real quick, just because I'm not saying you shouldn't go to college. You should never stop learning. That's essentially what it is. Yeah. So like, even if you don't have to go to school to pick up a book, and you should pick up books and learn the basics of filmmaking, and because you need to know the rules in order to break the rules. I totally believe that, but you don't need to go to college. Like, you can just pick up those books on your own. Being said, about the talent, a lot of people get into this industry for a variety of reasons, and it's funny, when I was actually starting off as an actor myself, I read in a book that was like, if you're getting into this for the money, you shouldn't be doing this. If you're doing this for fame, you shouldn't be doing this. And if you want fame, like, that's something you've got to kind of work on yourself for. Because, that's not a reason to get into acting. And those are the people, too, that once they start getting into acting, they get so discouraged so quickly once they hear no, 10 times, because they're not in it for the right reasons. Like, they start to doubt themselves. And whereas if you just genuinely love what you're doing, then it doesn't matter. If at the end of the day, you gained a new connection, you had a new experience, like, you learned something. But yeah, people who get in for those reasons, they definitely fall way harder and way quicker.
Yes, I mean, I've seen it too, even just doing like productions around here.
Sure.
some people just it's almost they like the idea of people telling them how great they are, this and that. And I think because this industry, even the modeling, the print, the actors, the filmmaking, whatever, all of it ties in together because it's under the entertainment field. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times people use that for validation.
Definitely.
I think they maybe get in there because they feel that if they could succeed in this business, it's almost like a personal stamp on themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. No,
yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, especially when coming out to LA. Oh my God, the egos out there are just insane. Like I walked into one party one time in LA, and the guy who was hosting a party was watching his Snapchat stories on the big screen TV with all of his friends, and they're all just like laughing. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? Like, this is like, why are you like, you're watching your own Snapchat story on the TV? Like, your guests don't want to see it, but they were loving it, and just like, it's very like a, everyone wants to is a part of that rat race. They're trying to like, I don't know, they're feeding into it for each other and for themselves in a weird way. And I don't know, like, it's funny at that same party, the guy was playing a record, and instead of just playing the record, he actually had a stand where he could showcase what record we were all listening to. And I'm like, that right there, that's LA, right? Like that, like, it's not just like, you can't just be cool, you have to be like in your face too. Like let me show you how cool I am. And that, and not everyone in LA is like that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a lot of people who are in the acting industry out there, they're doing that because they have to be. They have to. There's so many other models and actors out there. They have to constantly be pushing themselves. So to some degree, they just don't know. They don't even know what they're doing until you're an outsider, looking in. And you're like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, this is so egotistical and self-serving and dangerous. But like I said, those people, they crash hard, and I don't envy them at all.
Yeah, I think some of them too. They still stay in because I still think that they feel maybe that they haven't been given a fair shake, or maybe because some of them I know do burn out, and honestly, it's like that. That's what you need, honestly, because it's good for everybody, because it's good for them, because it shows them that they're not going to waste their life, waste their time, waste their money on something that at the end of the day is going to make them happy.
Well, I agree. I mean, more people need to be told no.
The power of no is
I hate to say that, but the thing is, like, just like, which one of us wouldn't want to be, a rock star or a famous actor? Like that, everybody wants that, but like very few are capable, let alone or at the right time. I mean, I tell people this all the time. Like, so there are people out in LA who are more talented than Johnny Depp, Tom Cruise, whoever, some of these A-list actors, and they will never make it because they weren't at the right place at the right time. So you can be as talented as can be, and if you're just not at that right moment, then you're not going to be discovered, and that's unfortunate. But
so, do you think that's because they don't have good networking skills, or it's because maybe they just don't have? They're missing some kind of key ingredient, which maybe maybe that networking, maybe that is it. Maybe do they just not have the ability to build a network, or get somebody like you to just say, "Hey, this guy's talented as shit. Why isn't he working more?"
I don't think that is. Honestly, I think it's part of this industry and being successful comes down to luck. And I hate to say that, and I hate luck. I hate luck. I think you are the the maker of your own destiny, but at the same time, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much even I can do. When I send out my talent to clients, I can't force my client's hand in picking someone. Mm-hmm. I can't say, all right, I can try to coerce them and say, hey, listen, this person's really great and that person's really great. You should, this is the person you want. But at the end of the day, it's really not even up to my client. Sometimes it's up to my client's client. So it's really, down the line, per se, or up the hierarchy. So, yeah, I mean, networking definitely helps and can increase your chances, but I think there are some people who do everything right and just they still aren't successful, and that's unfortunate, but that's just how this industry is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess, luck does play sometimes a bigger part than what we think.
Yeah, more so than we'd want.
Yeah, and it kind of goes into the lottery. Some people who've won the lottery, that's all luck. I don't think you can actually, I don't think you can prepare to win the lottery, or train to win the lottery. But some people who have won the lottery, they've asked them later on, and some people said, "Yeah, I deserve this," And it's like it's like the Monopoly experiment. The Monopoly experiment, which is we play Monopoly against each other, and I started off with 90% owning everything, and then you had the potential to buy the other 5%, and I just dominated you.
Yeah.
those same people never actually said, well, it was because I started off with a hell of a lot more than he did. They actually go, well, I had better tactics and I had a better strategy and this and that. Well, it's like, well, Jesus, if you win the board, if you're going into with 95% of the board and you didn't win, either the other person was an incredible genius or, it was just the odds were against you. But as we talk about this, why you moved out to LA, did you move out to LA because you were sort of burned out from being in this area, which is the Philly area I'm talking about?
Not necessarily. I've a few reasons I moved out to LA. Number one, because I've always lived here and I've always wanted to live in LA. At least just try. If nothing else, just live in a different city. And also I had contractually speaking, I had a non-compete with my other employment, so I couldn't start my own agency because I had to abide by these 18 months, which I was happy to do and did, and so I figured, well, I might as well make the most of these 18 months, so let's work in the entertainment capital of the world, knowing that, one day I would want to move back, start my own agency, and then to have that LA credential would just, dominate, just having those connections, let alone the experience, would make me so much more appealing to talent, to open up an agency, like I said, right here in Philadelphia.
So what was the impetus to actually move out? Like, what was it in your life where you finally said, you know what, I better just move out? And then and setting that date, was there anything that happened, or you finally just said, you know what, I better just do it?
So after I left my other place of employment, I took a vacation because I was like, I have not had a vacation for 3-4 years. So I went out to Portland and in LA, and the people who I ended up working with in LA, they had a sister office in Portland. And I had met with them, had a beer with the one of the guys who runs it, and he was, super great guy. We just gelled so well, and I really respected the company, and they really dug me. And then, so that's essentially what happened. Is then when an opportunity opened up, I did tell him, I was like, I would love to work in your LA office one day. When an opportunity actually opened up, I was one of the first ones he called, and then interviewed through there, and that's so. So it kind of just still moved out. So, sorry. So I moved out there without having a place to live, but I still had a secure job. And honestly, I think that would be my advice to anyone who's thinking about moving to LA is do not move to LA unless you are invited. Like, there are enough people there. You, especially as a model or actor, like, you think it's glamorous to, like, be roughing it, but, like, you have no idea what roughing it means. It is so... And everyone has these terrible, horrible stories about when they first got to LA. Like my one buddy, my fellow agent, he like lived with in the house with it was like a 2-bedroom house with like 6 people, and there was like a meth addict who lived in the garage. And every time he did laundry, he'd be harassed by her. Like it's just like, and it's not like, and that this is what I'm saying. Like, as a model or actor, like God, like no, like you don't realize how hard, and to also just move out somewhere new and not know anybody. That's so frustrating. I was lucky enough that me and my girlfriend were out there, so we were able to kind of use each other and help each other out. But like, even that was like, let's say you're here in in Philly, and like your car breaks down, you can call someone and they'll be there. Mm-hmm. In LA, your car breaks down and you're just like, well, fuck, I got nobody. Like I have to figure this out. Like, I've got to take a lift, or I've got to so there's a lot of like. It's very isolating out there, oddly enough. Even though there's so many people out there, there's like, it's rough. Like I said, it's really rough. And like I said, and I don't envy talent. But honestly, like, that's what I tell talent now that I've been out there. Even not even just talent, like from writers, producer, directors, is stay home. Like, stay in your home base, and like. And honestly, like, succeed there, and then move out there. Like don't go to LA looking for success, because I can guarantee you won't find it. Yeah. Like, you just will not find it. The market out there is so overly saturated. There are so many models, so many actors. I would walk into like a Burger King, and it's just like a casting. There's like a casting call for models. Like, there's like so many gorgeous people around. Like, what the hell? Where did I walk into? And it's just a Burger King. Like, it's just like everyone out there is trying to get the same, trying to achieve the same dream, and. Yeah. And it's just too many people, too many actors, too many models. I represent some talent out there who are, drop dead gorgeous. If I represented them here, I'd be able to get them a ton of work. But out there, like, they sometimes they would only get like 2-3 callbacks a month, and they'd be like, "Will, what happened?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And to be honest with you, what do I think it is? It's just too many people. Like, you have so many. You might be the top of you might be the best looking person here in Philadelphia, but you go out to LA, and you're you're the best. You're with the best looking people of everyone in their city. So it's really, and that kind of fucks with the talent's head too. It's just because you're like, oh shit, like, I was at the top, and now like I'm, now there's people here that are even prettier than I am, or more talented than I am. So that's very frustrating because there's just so many people, so many models, so many actors, so much talent. And that's why you see a lot of people leaving, and I think that's what needs to happen. Like I said, find success in your home. If you're a director, writer, whatever, do it at home first. Because if you can't do it here, then you certainly can't do it out there. Absolutely not. So it's so much more easier to be known here in a smaller market than it is, out there.
Yeah, I've told other people too. If let's just say you and I lived in the middle of America in a very small town. It's actually a pro to live there because if I make my movie, I know Tom at the auto body mechanic shop. I know this guy, and there's actually more of a willing to help you out because that's cool. He's actually going out there and doing something. Because if you go to LA and you're like, hey, I'm going to make a movie out here, everyone goes, well, where's our paycheck? Yeah, I knew a guy who came out there, and every day he had breakfast in the same place, and he finally said, hey, I want to shoot a thing here. And they go, well, okay, you have to shoot it early in the morning. And he was like, okay. And they started telling him the rates. Yeah. And he was like, are you out of your freaking mind? Yeah. I mean, he's like, it is astronomical. And he goes, I'm just going to shoot here for like 3 hours. We're like, well, still, this and that. Yeah. He goes, I'm not disrupting business. You could still go out. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's that whole thing. There's a big talent pool out there. Yep. And you have to be able to, succeed wherever you are. Yeah. And, you succeeded here. I bombed out and started a podcast. But slowly building myself back up. Sure. And I think you basically now you're ready to go to the next level. In your professional life, right? So that's why you're starting your own agency, right?
That's why, when I was in LA, I loved LA. I really did. I loved LA. I didn't really want to leave. I still miss it. I hope to one day open an office there. I would definitely want to go back. That being said, financially speaking, it is a bitch out there. And and people, and when you go out there and you think you can rise above it, you think that, you can overcome it, but you can't. Like for me and my girlfriend to see a movie, any movie on a Tuesday afternoon, $60 for 2 tickets.
Jesus.
Yeah, $60, no lie, and that's just for an everyday movie, so it's after the cost of living out there is crazy, and that's once again if you go out there as a model or actor, you better have a big nest egg, a really big, and that's going to go quick, even still, So it is just the cost of living is just crazy out there. I mean, we went to Dairy Queen, a Blizzard was like $8. Like, good
Jesus.
Lord,
I can live like a king here.
Yeah. Well, then we came back and we're like, oh my god, our money goes so much farther. When
I was in New York, I was saying I bought a Red Bull up there, because I had to take it in there. They were $5 a can for the smallest can possible. I mean, the dinky little 8-ounce ones. Yeah. There was like $5.25 each.
Oh my god.
I'm like, huh? I bought 4 of them. It was $21. No, it was 22 something because it was tax and everything. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus God.
Yeah.
And it was, but I was like, you know what? You win this round, Bodega. I needed those Red Bulls. So.
And that's and when we were leaving, I talked to a friend, and he's like, yeah, well, in order to make it out in LA, in order just even to get by, we're not even saying living comfortably, we're just saying just to make it, you have to make at least $80,000 a year, at least. And honestly, and the wage gap out there is so apparent. You see people, I mean, they're in Lamborghinis and Maserati, all, you drive through the hills every day, and you just see the money out there, and there is a ton of money out there, but all these people brought it in or from outside, or the gap between the rich and the poor out there is just so evident and it's just so drastic. And that's the thing. Everyone, I hate to say it, but there's so many homeless people out there. So many homeless, and there shouldn't be. With the amount of taxes you're paying out in LA, they should take care of the homeless problem. But there's so many homeless people there, and there are people on the streets asking for money for rent. And it's damn, that's how, shit. I mean, it's we're all struggling to get by with rent, and there's also the gentrification is really apparent out there. I mean, that's how, we lived in North Hollywood, which was also in the midst of being gentrified. And since gentrification is such a double-edged sword, what that eventually happens is that you get priced out. You live there until you cannot, until you're told to get moving. So like I said, I definitely there's one homeless guy out there. I see him every day driving home from work. He had a sign. It was follow me on Twitter at that LA homeless guy or something.
Really? That LA homeless guy?
I think it was something like that. It wasn't that specifically. But it's like, Jesus, like, we're in LA.
I actually have to follow him after this.
Yeah, look him up.
That LA homeless guy.
I'm sure he takes online payments.
Yeah, all right. I could, that's even better. I can like send him like a air tip.
Well, that's why honestly, like most of the homeless people out there, I tell them like, listen, I don't carry cash on me. Like, if you had a card reader, like I could swipe and give you a buck, but like I literally have no cash on me.
I don't carry cash on me
no
either.
One does.
I pay for these cheesesteaks with a credit card.
Oh, thank you.
Online, I was like, see, I go online, order through Season's website, and they had it delivered because I got, I don't carry cash. Who carries cash anymore?
No one does.
Yeah,
no, that's why every time I go to a restaurant, even here, it's like oh, cash only. I was like, shit, like where's that ATM? But yeah, so like moving back essentially was for me was a step up because I knew that like I said, even as an agent's perspective, you're making money for someone else. I want to make money for me, and just from a purely financial aspect, it's like, well, then what is an agency really doing for me that if I just didn't take 6 months off, I couldn't do for myself? So, and that's what essentially I've been doing for the past 6 months is just learning how to open up a business because just because I'm a good agent doesn't mean I'm a good businessman. So, been learning, QuickBooks, learning, hiring a lawyer, doing all this stuff and branding and all that fun stuff. And I love it because it's something completely new. But in my mind, you want a job where you have people working to make you money. You're not the other way around. Like you gotta, I don't know. You want to be upstream for sure. So that's.
Episode 99, I had on Morgan J. Freeman, who set the record for Sundance. He actually became the first director ever to win like the Triple Crown.
Damn.
Very good story about him, about what happened to him.
Sure.
He's very open and honest about it. But he had a saying that I still sticks with me now, and it's greenlight yourself. Yeah. Greenlight yourself. He goes, do not wait for anybody else. You have to greenlight yourself, and you have to put those opportunities and create your own opportunities. Yeah. Because it's not going to come to your door,
Well, and I think it's also true for our generation as well. Because, I mean, going back to the college thing, so, like, we have people right now, our generation, when we were in college, we were told, my professor told me all the time, you're fucked. Like, there are no jobs out once you leave college. And so we all left college, and we had a ton of student loans now, and which many of our generation is still paying off. That's why they can't afford to move out, because that rent money is essentially going to the student loans. So we graduated college. There were no jobs for us. There was a recession which hit, and then the job market started coming back. Well, then there's this gap if you look at people which our generation, and there are people older than us who have experience, and people younger than us who have a better, more current college education, and then there's just us, which is like we got no experience, we don't have a current education. So now what? And honestly, and part of my thinking is like, well, honestly, it comes to just starting your own business. You're going to have to. Like I said, greenlight yourself, and you're going to have to, if you want any chance of being successful, you've got to just do it on your own. Take that leap, take that jump, and just, if nothing else, just try.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I started this podcast. Yeah. I wanted a chance just to, because I know no one will probably hire me as their podcast host. Started this podcast, and now I get people actually chime in and ask me how to set their own podcast.
Yeah, awesome.
Like other opportunities have come in where I've had to be like, no, maybe yes to this, and just different stuff. And
if nothing else, it's yours, and that's what I love about my own business. Yeah. It's my business. You know, like you fail or succeed, it's all based on you, and that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there's no one else to blame. There's you don't have anyone over your shoulders telling you do this, do that. You just have, although we do answer to somebody. But when you have your own business, it's like you are the one and only, and I really love that feeling. I love that feeling, and it motivates me, and I think it's just as I'm sure it does for you as well. And just like it's just great to know that like it's your baby.
Yes, yes, because you get a chance to do everything here. With starting this podcast, I kind of Mark Maron has his own setup. There's like 4 or 5 people I kind of modeled this after. Sure. The Nerdist with Chris Hardwick, the Mark Maron's WTF, and a couple others, and. The one guy that I kind of modeled this after, he does everything just like I do, where basically he edits it, he help promotes it. It's like a one-man band. I'm trying to like go beyond that right now, and just sort of get out there a little more. But going back to, you starting your agency, you I think it launched last month, right?
Oh, no, we didn't. I haven't launched yet.
Oh, you haven't launched yet? Okay.
So like I said, I moved back here in October. Still been learning and still been, taking the appropriate steps on how to, form an LLC and, get my EIN and all that fun stuff. And so we are not quite open yet. We're actually going to be opening up. I was hoping for April 1st, but now I'm thinking May 1st, just because it's funny when you open your own business. When it comes down to just you, you can get a lot done very quickly. As soon as you start relying on someone else, your business slows down to a crawl. And not saying it's not because the other people are being lazy. It's just because you have to rely on other people and they're swamped with other things. So when you have to start relying on other people, that's when things just really slow down. But so right now we have our website is about to be built. It's the same people who do all the big guys up in New York City, Wilhelmina, Ford Elite. Same people who build their website are building our website. We're going to get the top of the line booking software, which is going to be awesome. So, and no one else here in Philadelphia has the booking software that we will have. So really, really proud about that. And so right now we're doing that as well as, doing some stuff with the state of New Jersey. I still have to get my licensing, but in order to get a license, you need to have an office, and then in order to get my SAG, become a member of SAG, which we will be SAG franchise, you need to have your licensing and then also have an office. So I didn't want to sit on an office for too long and not actually be using it. Yeah. So we're actually going to start the lease probably next week with the office, the actual office space.
How did you actually find the office space?
I mean, it's just when we looked at our startup funds, I wanted a good portion of the startup funds to go to the website. The website, because that is what, makes or breaks a company these days, especially in this industry. I mean, it's all about the website and how professional it looks. So we wanted the best website, not only in Philadelphia, but also one that would compete up in New York City, because we're really focusing on Philadelphia, DC, and New York City. Trying to kind of bridge those three cities, which is why we opened up in Jersey, or we're opening up in Jersey. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
About opening your office.
Yeah, okay. It's the office. Yeah. So the office, we just went with one of those Regis WeWork it's not. No one's going to be in my office. The office is just for me. Honestly, I'm probably not even going to be in my office most days. I'm always on the go, always on the run, and working from my laptop, and so is everyone else in this industry. So so long as you answer the phone, then that's all that matters. It doesn't matter where you're working. You can be in pajama. My clients are in their pajamas half the time I talk to them, so they don't care. They're happy.
So I don't know how much you could talk about this.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned startup funds.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool because, by the way, you mentioned EIN number, which, by the way, everyone listening, that's the dreaded tax number that you have to use to pay your tax. Oh, but I've been down that road many a times. I see that. I'm like, oh, the tax man's are coming to collect. You could piss off the mafia. You could piss off a lot of people. Don't piss off
the government.
Oh, the IRS. Well, they got Al Capone. Yeah. Okay, you are not going to get by them.
Very true.
So where, if you can talk, how did you raise your own startup funds?
Well, it's funny, one thing I thought going into this business and opening up my own business, I can find a loan, or I can find or the banks will hand it out. Fun fact: banks do not give out small business loans. That doesn't happen. There's really not. You can't even use your personal funds really as leverage or your credit. Yeah. It doesn't really work like that. A lot of companies are actually funded on their credit card, which is crazy because, the credit card companies can jack up their prices, or their interest rates or what have you. So I never knew that. I thought the banks would be willing and happy to give me a loan, but no, it's not. Man. And I have a really good credit score, and not to brag, but I'm just saying that's. I was like, oh shit!
They want collateral, or they want some a co-signer, or because they got to break your legs.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of, like I said, a lot of small businesses just done through bootstrapping. Yeah. For us, we were able to secure a private investor who was willing to front the whole startup cost with an interest
that is
rate.
awesome.
Yeah. It was great. I was really, really lucky to have that, and really, we wouldn't be able to run if it wasn't for that loan, or rather, would have taken a lot longer. So, really, really appreciative and grateful for that. So that's essentially how we started.
That's awesome, Will.
Thank you.
By the way, I just took a bite of a cheesesteak, everybody. So sorry. But Will, as you sort of go now, where did you come up with the name of Vi?
Vi. So, what I want to do is I want to make sure that when we open up our agency, we're not on the defense. We're very much on the offense. We want to compete, we want to attack, we want to make ourselves known. So Vi just definitely kind of fit more in tune with that, as well as even our logo, the Vi lettering is like a crimson red for a reason, because we want it to be known as aggressive. So Vi definitely was fit in real nicely. I just like having a 3-letter name sounded good. It just seemed to fit well with Ford, Elite, Vi. Well, it just kind of fit nicely in there. As well as just having additional implications and definitely kind of going in with the brand. But then also the URL was a big thing, so we had viagency.com was available.
Oh, okay.
Like no one else took it Vi. I mean, and I had gone through there was a good 10 other names which I also had liked. But they weren't available because the URL was like $1,000 or so that's I mean, with the website it's something you really have to consider when you're naming your business is it available, and is someone else does someone else have it, and and I think there might be another Vi agency in like Germany or something like that, but it's so not it's not a big deal, but yeah.
Was one of the other names like a play off of your name, like on the ball agency?
People ask to do like of course you get like the balls models because the Zoolander thing, and God, Zoolander's just like the bane of my existence. I hear fucking Zoolander jokes every day of my life, and so.
What do you think of Zoolander 2?
I didn't see it.
Oh really?
Yeah, it garbage. So I'm like, did you see it?
Oh, I see. I see a lot of movies, Will. I see a lot of movies.
I mean, I did too, but I just that one I was like. I can't.
There was one funny part, and the rest of it, I was like, "What the hell happened?"
Really?
It's almost like all of the funny and the scenes and the craftsmanship of the first film was all lost.
Really,
and it was like,
insane.
and it was just almost like weird. It felt like an early '90s comedy theme.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like those kind of comedy, they just don't work anymore. I think the first one's kind of like lightning in a bottle in a way, and that's
there was one. There was one funny part though in Zoolander 2, and I'll just tell you what it is.
Yeah,
because you're probably never going to see.
No,
it.
I'm not.
What is it? Mufasa. Yeah, he's in jail, and it's Will Ferrell, and he actually has a way to break out. Right, so he gets Derek Zoolander to come into the jail. And he's like, here's my plan to how I'm going to escape. And he has fashioned a Derek Zoolander mask that is so shitty looking. And he's actually fashioned another mask that looks like him to put on Derek. So now Derek is chained up with the Mufasa mask on while Mufasa walks out with this Derek Zoolander mask on. It's so blatantly obvious. And everyone's like, oh, goodbye, Derek. He's like, oh. That was actually funny. Okay. Everything else I was like,
Well, I just watched the Dumb and Dumber I honestly turned it off, and I never turn off movies, but I think it was I got 25 minutes in, and I'm like, I can't, I can't.
You know what the sad part is? It doesn't get any better.
Yeah,
I very rarely ever turn off movies either. That's why I've always said the first one was so good. I was actually just talking about it yesterday, and then I saw that one. And I was like, what the hell happened?
I don't know. I feel like comedy is in a bad state right now. The funniest movie last year was Pop Star. Never Stop, Never Stop.
Oh yeah,
it was great. It was awesome, and no one saw it. But as far as comedies are concerned, they're so piss poor and just half-assed, and it's sad. Comedy needs to come back, and now the Judd Apatow days, those are over. Those comedies don't work anymore. Even those guys are I had really high hopes for Sausage Party, and that was just it wasn't bad. I definitely like the story of it and some of the plot points, and the villain was awesome. But the jokes on a smaller level just did not keep that movie going.
You know what I think the big problem is, and all kidding aside, even though we're talking about comedy, is you guys get that? I was saying all kidding aside, but is the fact that it's almost like comedy has come down to two scenarios. First scenario is this: you're the straight man. I'm going to be the guy, and you're like, oh, I got a problem, Dave, and this and that.
Sure.
And I go, oh yeah, why don't you give her the old motorboat? And you're like, motorboat? What's that? Oh, come on, man. It's that scenario. Or
Mike and Dave need wedding dates.
Or the other one is, the other side of this is, we harp on something. You come in and do something, and I just harp on it. Oh, that was did somebody say boner or something like that? You know what I mean? You come in and you do something oh, it's awful. It smells like this, and we just keep harping on that. Yeah. And I see every comedy. If you look out, you're not going to be able to not to see it now that I mentioned it. Seriously, they're going to follow one or two of those templates. They're going to follow model 1 or model 2, but every scene, no matter what's going on, that's what it's like. Yeah. Every joke has. That's why when Workaholics season 3, they had a board of shit that should be stopped.
Yeah, can't.
Yes, thank God.
I like that a lot. I think that's a really smart way to do that. And I mean, even honestly, I think also this improv movement has gone too far. That's why Ghostbusters doesn't work at all, because you can tell they were just on set and they were like, all right, be funny and just keep going and just. But that's not funny. That doesn't make good comedy, and it just doesn't. To some degree, even that movie just didn't make the jokes just didn't make sense. It was so nonsensical and just so confusing and like I said, but like you cannot just improv. Like improv is kind of like only a few people can do that. You know, like you're thinking like the days of like Reno 911, and like that was so fun. Like most of that was improv. And that's crazy. And like they were talented. They knew they were all on board, but even that was like a niche. And now everyone was doing that back then. And you don't need to. You can't make a movie out of it. Just write on your when you're screenwriting, just be like. Make jokes, like banter,
The best part of Ghostbusters, the remake, was the ongoing joke that Melissa McCarthy in the Chinese place. Yeah, that was the funniest.
I like that
part.
because I could relate to that, and like I did, and I know other people kind of shitting on that joke, but I did. I agree. That was the only thing that I was like. Huh. Like, I just, gave a half smile. I was like, okay.
Well, because she knew about the Chinese place. She goes, it should be up here in 10 minutes. And it's like one prawn or whatever. I thought that was hilarious. And I was like, that's the stuff they should have been focusing on more of. Yeah. And then when Bill Murray came in there, I thought,
geez. Like you waited, like you specifically didn't do Ghostbusters just to get this role. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you suck. All those cameos were just like so forced and so like, it's just painful. Like, and that's the thing. It's not like, honestly, I blame it's not the women, it's the man behind the movie who and I like Feig. I think he has some good, he directed some of my favorite Office episodes. Like, he has the capacity. Yeah. But, lately, he's just not been bringing it. I don't know what his deal is, but, yeah, whatever. But, yeah, comedy. So, comedy sucks right now, and, like I said, never see Pop Star, Never Stopping if you haven't.
Well, I'll link that in the show notes as well.
Oh, there you go. Sweet.
but so now basically now Vi, it's opened up now and people can submit to be represented.
Well, we're not open. Like I said, we haven't opened our doors yet, but we are accepting early applications.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Was that you were opening up for applications, like meaning that you can now submit to you to be represented. Yeah. So. Basically, is there any criteria that for any actors or models or anything listening to this, should they be, should are you looking for certain somebody? Are you looking for a certain size, shape, or are you just open? So
so obviously there's different divisions. We have our modeling division and we have our acting division. Acting division, we need people of every age, every size, every look, so long as they are experienced and they are talented. By all means, like I said, I want to see them. I want to know who they are. That being said, we are not representing any kids right now, just because honestly, kids are double the work and half the pay, and I just don't want to. I don't want to deal with parents.
Just like in being a parent, right?
Yeah, well, and honestly, I'm one person right now, so I don't have time to deal with momagers and dadagers and just that whole
momagers.
It's all. And it's also a great excuse for when I go to the bank and people are like, "Oh, you run your own business? What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a talent agent." And they're like, "Oh, well, my kid," and I'm just like, "Nope, we don't represent kids. Sorry, have a good day." But then as far as actors models are concerned, models definitely have a strict criteria. I mean, they should be above. If you're a female, you should be under or over 5'8". If you're a man, 5'11" at the very least.
So I couldn't be a model.
I'm sorry. I hate to shit on your parade or crush your dreams, but no.
Because I am 5'10".
Yeah, you just fell 1 inch short. I mean, technically 2 inches, but yeah.
Really? I could not be a model.
Sorry, Dave. Oh, and the reasoning being, because people always ask this, is let's say a client comes to me and says, okay, well, they have one sample size. And they say and it's easier for them to find a talent who fits that sample size rather than have 15 different sample sizes to fit that one talent. So it's really not. It's not my decision. It's just the clients are just they have their sample sizes. Looking at who we're looking for, both models and actors, we want to represent two people. Number one, people who have experience and have a headshot resume or have a really diverse portfolio, if you're a model. Or number two, it's okay if you're green, but you have to, be really on top of your thing. You have to be professional, reliable, have a personality. So, we will be representing, new faces per se, but they have to be right on the ball. They've got to bring it. And I have actually a whole interview process that I go through that I can kind of weed that out and figure out who really is. But yeah, so like I said, if you're interested, by all means, just send me an email, VIEagency.com, and I'll be happy to send you an early application form.
Well, see, I'm glad we were talking about this because we all know casting calls sometimes, and they charge for certain things. You know what I mean? And you and I have talked about this before, where it's like, hey, why don't you come to this open casting call? Or you see them in the mall. You know what I mean? You'll see them on a wall, like, hey, we're looking for new faces for this or that. And then so people like me will come in and be like, hey, all right, I could be I could be an actor, or whatever. So I sign. I go, and they want a fee. Well. Here's the thing. I've seen this in Philly and New York too. Is certain actors have posted on like Facebook or whatever, hey, I got an agent now, I got a manager, and I'm like, really, this guy?
Yeah.
Like, because it's not because, forget about talent for a second. I'm going to talk about personality. Yeah. Some of these guys are such loose cannons, and I mean, like, I would never ever cast them even as a loose cannon. They're a loose cannon. I wouldn't cast them as a loose cannon because it's too much of a loose cannon. So even the point I'm trying to make here is, when those types of things happen, like what are some of the things that people should look for in case something's a scam, or raise those red flags?
Absolutely. So, like I said, the big thing that with me opening up Five, the reason I actually came back from LA was because I was being told by so many both clients and talent saying, Will, there's such a need here for a better agency, someone who knows what they're doing, who has experience in a bigger market, but also is completely honest and transparent and has nothing to hide. And that's really something we're really, really stressing. I mean, if you go on our Instagram or our Facebook, like, we're very, very, like, we are completely transparent. We have nothing to hide. We make our money only, or will make our money only through agency fees and commissions. So we only make money when the talent work, when they make money. So we will never charge for any sort of representation fee, no bullshit website fees, like none of this stuff that even some honest agencies eventually start tacking on because they start getting greedy. So yeah, I would say if you're looking for like trying to prevent yourself from getting involved with a scam, definitely the biggest red flag is the money. Like, if you have any sort of upfront cost, and because then, I mean, if you run an agency like that, then you have a talent pool of people who are just willing to pay that money to get in. Not necessarily are they talented, So it's that's definitely the biggest red flag. Also, if you look at the contracts, if they're exclusive contracts, that's a big warning sign. We offer non-exclusive contracts. I don't want to limit anybody. I don't want to limit our talent. Like, hey, if you are already represented by someone and you want to go up in New York City, great, sign with me. We'll see what we can do. If you sign with me and you get an opportunity out in LA to go work with someone, yeah, I'm not going to limit you. Go do it. Go have fun. Like I never want to limit someone's opportunities. I just want the most and the best for our talent. So, there's a few, like I said, these warning signs. Like, honestly, do your research, and ask about that. Like, what jobs have they booked? Like, who are your biggest clients when you go meet with an agency? Tell us about some of the most successful models and actors that you've had and what they've done. You really got to do your research, and that's I see too, is like people who sign with scams, they just didn't do their homework, like it's because some of these scams provide all these like services that you could really do for yourself, but because it's just like an easy, and I don't want to say lazy, but it is almost like a lazy way of getting into the business without really knowing many people or doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I've seen a lot of it as an excuse to sell like headshots and stuff like that, like
absolutely.
services,
And that's the thing, like we never so for us, like if you're, I will say, if you're a model or actor looking to get into this, like you got to do a ton of work on your own before you come to an agency. Before you go to an agent, you've got to get your headshot, you got to get your resume, you got to get your portfolio if you're a model. Like you have to do so much work on your own. Like you're getting an agent is a step up, but you got to pay your dues first. So you can't just come in with nothing, like because then I can't market you if you have no imagery. Then like I'm not going to charge. I will never ask for money to get you photography, but instead I'll tell you, go get some decent photography. Like,
mm-hmm.
and I have a list of photographers, so I know and I trust, and I'll give them to you, but they charge, and I mean that's not my business.
Yeah.
And but maybe you have a friend who's a really up and coming photographer, or you have a connection. Yeah, shoot with them. I just need something to market you with, and I can't market you with nothing. But I'm never going to charge for that.
Yeah, and I've a couple of weeks ago I saw a photo online from a talent agency, and they were saying something about we're casting models and this and that, and I looked at some of these models and I'm like,
yep.
Wait a minute here. I said, am I missing something? And after this is over, after we're done this I'm going to show you the photo.
Okay.
And I'm gonna because I don't know about this one, Will.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like that is so sad. I see that happen. And like, sometimes the nicest thing you can say to someone is no. Like sometimes, and and that's where I think agents get like a bad rap and casting directors get a bad rap. Like, I know, as much as I love La La Land, like I hate that shit when they're like shitting on casting directors. They're like, oh, like next, like, oh, that woman's so mean. It's like, well, yeah, if you were in her position, then you be that mean too, because like you have to be, I'm sorry.
Can I say that I have never encountered a casting director like that ever? Is that just weird? Like I have never encountered.
it's very like stereotypical. And I've met a few who have been similar, but like I said, but at the end of the day, like I said, even if you were to act that way, hey, you can and you have to in order to like get if you were seeing, like I said, if you saw nothing but talent all day, you would be very short with people too, and you would be very like because immediately what the client wants or what doesn't want. So like like it's easy to shit on casting, but they have such a hard job, and I mean it's not really my job. I just like I'm an agent, so I work for the casting directors, but it's just I do not envy them. Like that is a very thankless and like it's easy to judge them and be like, oh, you're so callous, you're so cruel, but it's like they have to be, and not a lot of people are, but you have to be.
So let me ask you this. When you auditioned for Game Over, which is my TV podcast, was I good at casting?
You were great. Yeah. You were great. Like I said, you were fun. And like I said, I very rarely run into that scenario, but but I still, you should go in expecting it to be that, like that. Like so don't get don't get upset if the casting director does just say say next. Like that's just part of the industry, and like. It's just don't take it personally, and so going back, like I said, there are a lot of sometimes you have to tell people no. You have to tell people no, and
what the hell was that? It's like big noise outside, ladies and gentlemen.
But and like I said, and that's I think you can tell a scam by just looking at their talent roster. Go to their new face board and see who's on there, and just take a look, and you can tell. And then it's where when we open up, we're really going to be focusing on quality over quantity. So if we open up and we have 15 really solid, great looking people who are also reliable and professional, that's great. I'll just stick with those 15. I don't want to flood my boards. I don't want 40, 50, 60 people who I don't know are going to show up. Like I tell all my talent all the time, I am not your employer. I am your business partner. And I do not go into business with someone who I do not trust 100%. So, like I have to trust you as a person. I got to make sure you show up on time. I got to make sure that you, in addition to being great looking or talented, so there's a lot of aspects to being a talent.
Yeah, there really is, Will. And, I know we're sort of talking about all this stuff, and I also wanted to ask. I know not sort of to shift gears.
Sure.
We start. No, it's nothing bad.
No.
Okay. But for Geeks, I'm looking at my notes. What I wanted to ask you, and for Geeks, I know we've sort of kind of talked about this. Is the writers group that you and I started?
Yeah.
And I think that's another avenue of creating opportunities.
Sure.
And what are some of the things that you took away from that writers group that we started? Like about starting writers groups, because we don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
You moved out to LA. I got burned out from everything in my life at that point, and I was kind of like, get away from me, everybody. Well, you know why. I mean, right? So, but what are some of the things that you took away from that group?
You know what? Honestly, I think that I didn't really expect the writing group to be so much fun. I really loved and enjoyed going to our meetings, not even to talk about writing, but just to like hang out with like a great group of people, and that was really something that I really loved and enjoyed doing, and just to be around, hanging out, even busting each other's balls and shit like that. Like that's fine. But I learned a lot from that group, and honestly, like it's hard. It's sometimes even just yourself to stay motivated to write, even if you did start the group. Like sometimes you just lack the motivation, and what I've kind of come to learn is like. Don't ever say that, like, you don't have time for something. You should instead say that, like, that is not a priority for me right now.
Yes.
Because, and that's with any scenario, whether it's, like, someone you're dating or, or writing, it's like, oh, it's not that you don't have time for that person. You don't have time to write. You do. It's just, it's not a priority right now. And I think that's okay. That's okay to admit. I don't think you should really force writing. It's good to be in a habit. And I think you got to look at, too, like, what your end goal is and what you really want to make happen. And especially as a writer, you really gotta, I don't know, you gotta, it's easy to write these like huge sci-fi epics and things like that. But, at the end of the day, it's like, well, you're really limiting your chance of getting made. And that sucks. It sucks for a writer, especially because you're like, well, I've really got to compromise now. And that's that you have to compromise your artistic integrity. And I know a lot of writers who are like, oh, well, like, I will never sell out. I will never, I could never. It's like, well, then you're never going to get your movie made. I'm sorry.
Guys like me who are like, you want me to sell out? Where the fuck do I sign?
Yeah, right? Yeah,
I will sign right now. You want me to? No, but like,
no. Price.
Just like,
that's $5 in a Wendy's coupon.
Exactly. That sums up the whole podcast right there. I'm selling out, everybody. I'm selling out. No, all kidding aside. whenever I sit down and write a script, I always make sure if I'm going to write something that's like a big budget, and I know it's going to end up being like a big budget, $200 million, whatever. Yeah. Always make sure I say to myself, this is like a calling card script or a script you enter into a contest that could get you into the producers. And I've had friends who've done that very well because they wrote a script. The budget would have to be at least like $150. You'd have to get one of the top people in the world to do it, like meaning that the people who still can get movies made, which is a list, by the way. It's getting shorter and shorter. It's really that budget. It really is getting shorter and shorter. If you don't have like a certain somebody on there, like an A-list actor, and that list is you could probably count it on two hands. It's not going to get made. But so what they do is they make it as a calling card script, and then finally maybe someday if there's another star that Hollywood can in a sort of, I don't want to say manufacture, but maybe foster
line up,
because they see Hollywood for all their money and all the marketing, they can't actually choose the stars because it's what movies get. If the public goes to see it, guess what? That's the new megastar. Harrison Ford, when he was in Star Wars, didn't even think it was anything. It wasn't going to be that big. And he went on vacation, I think, to Morocco, and they were playing it, and there was a big poster of him right outside. He goes, I think this is the beginning of something amazing. And he said after that, like people were just, and then they became Star Wars. They did Empire Strikes Back, and then, and now he crashes planes on the golf courses. But seriously, he's had like four.
It's like, so like discouraging and just like disheartening to know that like Han Solo is not Han Solo.
Did you ever see the panel he did for Ender's Game at a Comic-Con? And somebody raised their, and he goes, and listen, as the moderator said, listen, everybody, we're not going to talk about Star Wars. This is about Ender's Game. First question out of the gate was, would Han Solo make a good pilot in Ender's Game? And he goes, well, no, because he's a rogue. Second question, would Indiana Jones make a good pilot in Ender's Game? And he goes, that's the end of this. He left. Because he knew he was just going to get killed. And the third question probably would have been about, would Decker from Blade Runner make a good pilot? Because you could see where it was going.
Oh, no, I love it. Like, Bruno is not a very good movie, but the best part of that movie is when he goes up to Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford's just like, fuck off. He's such like an old curmudgeon now. Like,
Harrison Ford,
fuck off.
And that was what he promoting the big interview with Harrison Ford. Oh Christ! But one thing I want to talk about that writers group though is you start to realize. And some of the things that I've as I was doing the writers group, I was maybe taking a course or talking to other people who are out in LA or they're doing their own courses or what have you. One thing is always that you shouldn't be obsessed with rules. I think that's so. I mean, I think we all grew in that group. I think every single person got better.
Well, I think you also have to listen to each other too. You definitely have to be receptive to advice and honestly, like if one person's saying something like, okay, it may or may not be true, but if like everybody in the group is saying something, then it's probably true. And I think that comes. You really, and that's hard. I think that's hard for writers to do because you don't want to change. And sometimes we've all been there. Like we think the script's gonna like really go over really well, everyone's gonna love it, and then you come in and everyone's just like pissing and shitting on it, and you're just like,
every time for me.
No, it wasn't every time.
All right, 99% of the time.
No.
I honestly, I'm glad that the one script that I wrote that everyone liked was that Crispy script, and I'm glad that nobody knew who wrote it, and everyone was glad. And Crispy was like, he didn't know who wrote it. He's like, it was this. Was it you, Matt? And then Matt was like, no.
I will say, like, I like our writers group because it was so genuine. Whereas now, after living out in LA, it's like, Jesus, you go to a bar and you're like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a writer. And you're just like, oh, okay. Like, one of like 1,000 I've met today. And I think, like I said, it's just, it was nice to just actually like do something and just be proactive and just be a group that was just very sincere. And I think like, we were all in it for the right reasons, if nothing else, just to create,
And I think too that a lot of writers, I think speaking as we talk about rules, I think the main problem with a lot of the screenwriters, whether it be in LA or New York or Philadelphia, I think everyone now has sort of gotten the quote unquote rule books. And they're all writing for templates. I think now, because I've tried to write scripts through templates just to see how it would work. You know what I mean? Like you got to try it before you know. So I tried it, and I was like, this was okay. I wouldn't do this again because, I mean, you're really like, what the hell? Like, you're following, step one, blah, 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 this, that, step two. And it's
too
just
formulaic.
Yeah, and it's just, I look back at some of my favorite movies and I don't remember any of those guys because I tend to really get into whatever the project is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I see a movie I really like, nowadays we call it stalking, but But I was like, no, because like The Nice Guys, I thought The Nice Guys was the best movie last year. I thought that was a phenomenal movie.
I liked it. Unfortunately, I walked away a little disappointed. I didn't think I liked it as much. And there's a lot of people who I really, a lot of critics who I follow who that was their favorite movie of the year. Yeah. So I'm not. It was a really good movie. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. For me, The Witch was my favorite movie of last year. I just thought that was like the horror film of the past decade. Like it was like so like damn like, and it also feels like generally satanic too, which is pretty badass. But I think going back to that, like I read some advice about screenwriting that was like, don't worry so much about the act structure, just keep building. So long as things are happening and building and progressing, then you're okay. And I think that to me that's how I kind of took it and just kind of really took that to heart, because I'm not really good at like the 3-act structure. It still kind of confuses me, to be honest. Like because then you have this structure, and then like people try to like compare like the best movies in the past 10 years to this, and like okay, I really can, like I can see like that inciting incident at page 20. Yeah, I get that. I think that needs to happen, but like I just don't really. I think sometimes they try to force that template onto every film, and it doesn't really work.
Well, I've realized this, and it's also from just talking to a lot of different people. One thing is certain. Some people who do that, who take a movie and they put it into their whatever template or whatever, they're not really screenwriting gurus or teachers or what have you. What they are is they're brilliant story analysts. Sure. They can take Star Wars or they take Jaws or they take Indiana Jones and they put it to that template and they sort of talk about it a little more deeper and then they go to another deeper level. And hey, great, that's great. We've just deconstructed Indiana Jones and Jaws. But what does that teach us about how to write our own scripts?
Yeah.
And I mean, really, it's like a replication of. It's like, hey, if I take a car, and I totally take it apart, that's going to teach me how to build a car. It'll teach me about building a chassis, maybe, and maybe about how a car would actually work, because it'll be an internal combustion engine. We put gasoline. It's on 4 wheels. It has a chassis. But as far as the design of it goes.
Let someone else dissect your script too. Like it's funny. Like I one of my short films was made by a group of Drexel film students, and they actually found me on a website, and they were like, hey, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the area, and they're like, oh, would you like to come in and talk to the class, because they would love to have you. I was like, oh shit, like yeah, that'd be great. Like I'd be happy to. So I went in and I talked to this big class of students, and they're just like picking apart my script left and right, and as far as like dissecting and like asking questions, and they're like, well, what did you mean by this and what did you mean by that? And I was like, I don't know, I was fucking drunk and high when I wrote that. Like I don't know what I did, like how I meant it, like you just like looked into it as much as like you wanted to look into it, and like and people, it's easy to do, and sometimes like you don't even realize as a writer that you're doing that, and like best to let someone else, like I said, let someone else pick it apart and gain meaning from it. You don't have to do that. Just write.
Drunk and high, huh?
At the time. This is,
what script was it? Did I ever read it?
I don't think you did, actually. That was my it was like Reparations or something like that. It was like
no,
it was about it's like a interracial gay couple during the post-Civil War. It was like it was really convoluted and not that good, to be honest. And honestly, the film was filmed but never saw the light of day. Like I don't know.
Really?
I don't know if the director failed the class or what, but like they had filmed and it was a significant budget too for the film too. And like
how much?
I want to say it was about around like $5,000.
Really?
For like
wow.
students.
Yeah, that's
like,
seriously.
They had like a Kickstarter and they had people invest in it, and I never saw any of the footage of it. I was like really bummed out about it too. So
damn.
Yeah,
I do remember when House of Horrors got picked up by that podcast and they actually had a live.
Yeah.
That was fucking cool.
I actually had to take that script down because I'm like, now that I'm opening up my own business, like I'm not sure if I want this out in the world. And honestly,
did you ask me to take down that podcast too?
I don't know if I did. I should get on that. It's something. No, because I asked them to make some changes to that, and like I think as a writer you progress, and you definitely looking back of it, like it's just not like a script that I enjoy, but there's some smaller details I'm like, nah, I wouldn't have written that now. Like things change, culture changes, I change. Like you evolve.
Well, everyone, I'm going to link to that in the show notes. So listen to that as quickly as you can. So Will before Will gets that taken down and gets that censored.
Yeah, no, you actually listen to the script. Like, it's fine. I still have a fun time with it. I just don't think I don't think a lot of people would understand my either sense of humor, like what the movies I like to go see, and that's very kitschy.
I think it shines through. Honestly, I mean, you're talking about the guy who wrote a script called "Slay the Gay Away," which was another satire script. About a slasher to pray the gay.
Well, and that's the thing. I think there's a lot of times and I've done it too, where I want the satire to come through, and I'm not necessarily sure if it did. And that's you see it a certain way, but how it's interpreted can be different and completely opposite of how you meant it to be. So and I think that you have to be very mindful of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. Will, very true. Which is why a lot of these competitions, I think too, they're looking for certain scripts because certain scripts. I would never send other ones. I made that mistake one time. I actually sent a horror script that I wrote, but it was like a comedy horror into one of those competitions, and they teed off on poor Bullis, man. They were.
I actually went to.
I cried for days.
I went to. I submitted a screenplay to one of those horror film festivals as well. Didn't even make it through the first round, and then I went to a movie when I was out in LA. I actually went to their film festival and saw the top movie that had won for them, and it was garbage. It was terrible. It was it was even on an aesthetical level, it was so loud and so the noise was so it was just constant shrieking. I walked away with a migraine afterwards. I'm this is so insulting on several levels. So yeah, the hell with it. They want to find what they want, and if you try to be different or crazy or especially my writing, I like to kind of push the envelope a little bit. People don't. That's not gonna bode well.
Well, and I think that's why I always tell people you got to pick and choose what contest you enter because that fee, no matter what, is an expense. 60,
it totally is. Yeah, and that adds up.
Yeah, it does. That's what I mean. So that's why whenever I hear somebody say, "Well, I got this one script, I'm going to enter in these 10 competitions," and I'm like. No, don't think smaller. Less is more. And because I know a girl who won 17 competitions and it never got her a job. Yeah. It was just her network.
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, it's very true. Very true. Networking. It's hard. I mean, Screenwriting is just a whole different bear of a genre. But luckily with the internet, like I said, you don't have to be in LA, which is awesome. Like I said, you can be here and write in the next award-winning screenplay. And that's what's so awesome about the internet, and that's where the film industry is changing so much because you don't have to be in LA anymore, which is what I tell everyone. You don't have to be there. Don't have to be there. Move to Atlanta. If you're an actor, go to Atlanta. They're filming tons of shit there. Walking Dead, all the Marvel films. Go to Atlanta. You don't have to be there.
Well, I'm gonna take as a vote of confidence, Will, that I'm gonna write an award-winning screenplay from here in Philadelphia.
Aston on the map.
Yeah, Aston on the map. Well, I remember when we were doing Game Over, and we got in the paper, we got in a bunch of different papers and websites and this and that. The amount of people I had bugging me for shit was unreal. And I still have people coming to me, from time to time about this podcast.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, because all the people who tune in, I love you all. But no, people who message me and they're saying shit like, "Hey Dave, can you get this producer to come talk to me?" I had Kazi and Ilviz on here. Who did Dallas Buyers Club? Yeah. He's an A-list producer, and they're like, "Hey, can we pitch him something? Can I get his contact info?" Oh yeah, sure. I've built up all these relationships just to give them to you, guy. Why not?
And that's the thing, people don't understand how relationships work, and some relationships, and I especially see this as an agent, are very new and very fresh, and you don't want to test that relationship just yet. You can't.
Remember that one guy who I won't name, who we always were talking about, that he always seemed like a very needy person. Here, I'm going to mouth his name to you.
Oh yeah.
And let me tell you, man.
But also, look at it. I can, as an agent, you can sense someone being fake from a mile away. I hate it about it. It's the worst part of my job is when people are just that they just want something out of you, and it reeks. It's like the stench of just just neediness and just and it's disingenuous. I tell people all the time, and I've had people come up to me Will, hey, I'm an actor, and let's just sit down and have a beer and let's be friends. I want to get to, we won't talk about the industry, but let's just chill out and be friends. No, I don't want to be your friend. I got enough friends. If you came to me and was Will, I want to pick your brain about, acting or modeling. Let me buy you a beer and let me kiss your ass for an hour. I'd be thanks for saying that. Absolutely. Like I'd be happy.
That's how I got you on this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
I lured you in with cheesesteaks and ass kissing. I'm like,
But it's just so easy, and I feel like you don't need to pretend to be someone you're not.
Yeah.
You don't like. There's enough people being fake and disingenuous in the world right now. You can just be real and honest with people, and it's really refreshing to hear that in any profession. Like just cut through the bullshit. Cut through the bullshit.
Will Ball.
Yes, Dave Willis.
I think we're about out of time.
Oh no! Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
I know. I hate to. We keep talking.
I know we could. We really could. You have a lot to edit.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm just saying we're just about out of time.
Okay.
Where can people find you at online?
Yeah. So
because I think that was a good spot to end it. By the way.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
just be seriously. Yeah.
So you can go to my website, vieagency.com. It is a temporary website up right now. Pretty soon that will be replaced by a much more professional-looking website. You can just send me an email, will@vieagency.com. You can find us on Snapchat, on Instagram, @vieagency. Or you can just send me. I'm on Instagram as well. I'm just Willie Butts, Buttz. My dad used to always call me Willie Butts, so WILLIEBUTTZ. So yeah, follow me on Instagram. Say hello. I'd be happy to say and give any advice that I can.
Yeah, and I'll link to all Will's contacts in the show notes. Oh, no problem, buddy. And I said right now, I also link to all your show notes. All your social media channels, because I was, obviously promoting this upcoming appearance. Questions did come in.
Yeah.
I think we got to a lot of them. That's usually what happens. Usually in the course of conversation, most of these questions get answered, unless it's something completely outlandish. Like the first question for Kazian was, "How can I pitch you?" And I was like, and I told him, I said, and he's like, let's just ask it. And I said, all right. And I asked him that, and he goes, "If you're really good," he goes, "you'll know how to pitch me." That was how he answered it, and I thought that was such a cool way to answer. Because I was like, well, I got his contact info now. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just funny stuff.
Yeah. Agreed.
DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's @Dave_Bullis. Willie Butts.
Goodbye. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half.
Too long.
Too long. You got to come back on sometime when you're rich and famous, and I really have to kiss your ass.
No, I'm gonna be kissing your ass.
Me? I'm still gonna be.
Dave, come be
I'm gonna be living in like a street, some corner somewhere. I'm gonna be that guy on the street begging for change. Be like, I need rent money.
I'll be like that. Aston homeless guy.
That Aston homeless guy. And that's how I'll put Aston on the map. Willie Butts, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it, dude.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.